How am I in law school? Like, I'm in law school and I can't press simple buttons. This is like a shame. Helldivers 2 is a game that really lives up to its name. In the past, when I first started playing Helldivers, I didn't exactly know what I'm doing. And even now, I still don't exactly know what I'm doing. But this time, I'm actually having fun doing it, instead of just running around, going amongst the explosions, and kind of hoping my teammates do all the work for me. You see, in my latest playthrough and game of Helldivers 2, I actually kind of figured out what I was doing, and actually did objectives instead of running around aimlessly like I normally did. But that also had the either good or bad side effect of meaning I was front and center in all the action, which, in the case of my multiple various deaths, wasn't exactly the best. But on the bright side, I got to watch all the explosions firsthand, so I guess that makes better content for you. And me. I do make the videos after all. Now that I've somewhat learned the ropes of Helldivers 2, I figured at this time I should actually, get equipment and actually use it now that I'm going off on missions. You see, when I first started looking up at some of the new stratagems I could get, I figured out a grenade launcher would be pretty good, and so would this anti-tank rifle called the recoilless rifle, considering I kind of have problems defeating enemies, or at least I used to, until I landed in this system. At this point in the game, I wasn't brave enough to answer the art. Can I redo that? I wasn't brave enough to go against the robotic enemies, but I was brave enough to see 3 men apparently phase into each other outside of a pod. And unfortunately, I'm given no time to recover from seeing that horror and jump into a new one, as there's already a new mission being launched by the squad commander. I figured that now is a great time to check out and use all of those supplies I recently bought in the ship hub. And as the 4 pods lock in and launch, it's time for the first time for me to head down into a mission actually kind of knowing what I'm doing. The mission starts off with us descending down to the planet's surface and coming into a planet environment where there are bugs directly in front of us, around us, and popping all around, including these who are instantly trying to attack me, and I dive almost directly into one of my allies' guns and into this bug. So I don't know how a bug breach, which is kind of a bug ambush, already happened within like 1 minute of landing, but welcome to Helldivers 2, I guess. In fact, 2 of our teammates are already dead at this point, and we're forced to have them respawn, but on the bright side, I'm not one of them who died, and we're able to get rid of the bug nest, and kind of makes me wonder why the hell we landed there to begin with. Although I guess that's why the word hell is part of the game. Makes you wonder. Now you see, the entire mission here is to not die, which I guess I would failed completely in the first 3 minutes of the game, but our actual objective in the top right is to destroy a bunch of the Terminid eggs that are scattered all throughout the map. This is not one of the places where the eggs are, but being that it's one of the optional objectives on the map, I take the time while my teammates do this objective to pick up my own supplies, especially being this anti-tank rifle, considering I figure it's going to be a long one if these 3 minutes are any indication of how the rest of this game is going to go. The forest itself, as we head down to one of the nest eggs, are filled with a bunch of bug carcasses and a human carcass, which we just kind of ignore and hope for the best. As we're running down the plateau, I figure that my anti-tank rifle can actually be put to good use, and where I also figure out that the reloading time on this rifle is way longer than I would have wanted it to be. But that doesn't seem to impact me too much, considering my allies have like laser guns, and also anti-tank rifles aren't too good against these little bug dudes who are just kind of jumping around like little beans. But that doesn't stop me from firing off a little shot. Once I get to this part of the map, I need to put on sunglasses because God knows I can't see amongst all this like glaring white fire. In fact, I don't know how you're gonna see this either. You're gonna have a hard time missing that though. You know, I'm kind of disappointed that resulted in a death, although I was injured with my leg. After I finally respawn from an injury that should have never happened, I narrowly miss another one as my ally goes ahead and orders in an airstrike, which eradicates another one of the bug nests, which isn't the main objective. I'm starting to see a running theme as part of this mission. My allies seem to have access to weaponry that I definitely don't have access to, considering they're shooting out bolts of lightning and explosions and lightning beams, and I have like a single rocket. I don't even know at this point what this ability does. What's happening here? Anyone want to tell me? We apparently eradicate another medium bug nest, and my enemy is instantly eradicated as they're like, cooked to death by this laser. Imagine being a bug on this planet and your death is being cooked. That would just suck. Although I guess during exams my brain gets cooked, so I know the feeling. You see, here I try to use the anti-tank rifle that I purchased earlier, but considering this guy is just endlessly charging me, and there's a second one that I didn't actually see at the time, or realize that there were 2 of them, there's not a whole lot I can do. And in fact, I fired so many of the rockets off against both of these dudes that I have none left. So I'm just kind of carrying around an empty crate. But you know what? Doesn't affect me from toppling this dude and kicking him right into the dirt. Once we finally arrive at one of the bug nests with all the eggs that we need to actually destroy, we have that little timer and that little count up in the top right, where after we defeat 60 of them, we finally destroy the first bugged hive. And apparently they still spawn even though their hive is destroyed, so I have no idea where they're coming from. But I do know where our supplies are coming from. Somewhere in orbit where our ship is, I think. Just like the supply pack I called down to replace, you know, the pack that has no supplies. Apparently, even though we destroyed one of the bug hives, there are plenty of them all across the map, including this glowing one in the distance that I can't really make out, but I sure can make out this giant, like, grasshopper bug dude that's directly in front of me. We apparently complete a spore sewer objective, whatever that is, before we cross down these frozen lakes once again, and arrive at another supply depot. But this little drone with his lasers is making quick work of all the bugs, and I even pick up a quick sample from one of the little crates that was nearby in this abandoned outpost. In fact, we defeat so many of the bugs at this point that my flashlight just kind of glitches and stops working correctly, and my dude just kind of ragdolls around with no care in the world. Just like these bugs with no care in the world as we just gun them down. Very casually. It's a good thing that drone just kind of shoots first and asks questions never. But in this case, I probably should have asked questions about where this Eagle cluster bomb was coming, as I had no idea there was another one of these bug nests like 5 feet in front of us. And this time, there were apparently 10 of the bug nests in the top right that you can see, which is a count that I did not know you could actually have in a single one of these bug hives. I go ahead and toss a grenade that at first I thought missed and thankfully did not, because I have none left. But the rest of my allies make quick work of the heavy bug nest, and we're ever closer to completing our objective, although we only have 20 minutes left and we're halfway out of time. We arrive at another one of these smaller bug hives, and the bugs just keep on coming, whether they're popping up from these little holes in the ground or in one of the bug hive events, where they just kind of exist. You see, it's at this point that I've completely run out of heavy weaponry, and just kind of resort to firing off little pot shots across these little bugs as they swim across the lake. Which is kind of a terrifying thing now that I think about it, that these bugs have wings but they can like float on the water. Gotta not think too hard on that one. Finally, after a long time, we defeat both of the bug hives that we need to, and we're able to go ahead and run off to the extraction point, which will finally take us off this frozen world. But not before I fire off a few more rocket shots, and my enemy casually, you know, eats one of my allies. There's only 40 seconds left in the extraction at this point, and I have plenty of rockets to fire off in those 40 seconds. In fact, I fire off enough rockets and fire off enough bullets at the same time that the enemies aren't even able to arrive at the landing site after a certain while. And before we know it, Pelican 1-1 arrives at the landing zone, and it's time to leave. But not before we get a little bit of a fireworks show first. Once the bay doors open, all 4 of us board Pelican 1-1, and we set off for another successful victory. Level 5 me would be very proud. As we shoot off into the sunset, and our ship fires off a few final warning shots on the bug, we finally complete another objective. And speaking of completing objectives, if you want to complete one all on your own, and a pretty easy one that you can do right now, consider hitting that subscribe button below and liking the video. It's always appreciated, and it makes sure that I know that you guys not only enjoy this content, but want to see more of it, or at the very least want to see more on this channel, even if it's not Helldivers 2. And speaking of, if you want to see other non-Helldivers content, feel free to check out the channel and browse through all the other videos that are available. At this point, I've been doing YouTube for a few months, so I know my way around a video or two, and there's plenty of content there, no matter what you're looking for in gaming. So, once again, hit that subscribe button, and if you're not going to consider liking this video, at least consider checking out the other ones. I'm sure there's something on the channel that you'll like. After we complete another successful mission, and we see another horror of 3 dudes in a pod, which I hope to God no one makes a show or podcast based on that, it's already time for another mission down to the planet below. But this time, it's a different mission than we're used to normally. While we are facing the low bug enemies called the Terminid once again, I'm definitely not brave enough to face the robots yet. This mission is completely different, and unlike the last one, with this one we have to obtain the launch codes for an ICBM missile and launch it directly at the enemy Terminid bugs. Unlike the first mission, when we land this time, we're not like instantly ambushed and bombarded by enemies. So we're able to properly gear up and get all the supplies that we're going to need. In fact, the first outpost we come across has nothing to do with the actual main objective, but this bug dude who kind of ragdolls, and this bug dude who has way too much armor for my liking. But armor is no match for a few bullets, and once those bullets are well placed, we go ahead and activate this primary objective to go ahead and terminate an illegal broadcast, which makes me wonder how bugs with no hands or brains can make a broadcast like this. Honestly, if they're able to, I say good for them. But on this planet, we actually encounter an enemy type that I've never seen before, which are these big green slimy dudes who apparently can take a rocket shot directly to the head and still walk it off like nothing ever happened. Healthcare on this planet must be fantastic. You know, until you encounter that. I don't think any amount of bug healthcare is going to fix that one. Or human healthcare, for that matter. But unfortunately, just like the first mission, there are a bunch of those little bug hives all across the map. And we come across one of them. I particularly hate this little bug enemy, considering their attack speed seems a little quicker than I would like for my taste. But me and my ally are able to make quick work of this bug nest. And for a minute, I think I killed my ally? Maybe? I'm gonna hope I didn't, though. We'll pretend like my ally did not die and I did not launch my grenade at the same time. Once we continue ahead and destroy more of the bug hives, we come across what I think is a procedurally generated sandstorm, which is actually pretty cool because, you know, sandstorms mean nothing to my rockets. We come across what used to be an outpost, it looks like for Super Earth, and once we meet up with the rest of our allies and link up across the desert, I instantly die. Not from this bug somehow, but from one of my teammates. I think his little laser drone cooked me instead of a little bug steak. But it's alright, because ultimately it's made up as I'm able to not only recover my gear, but recover some more samples. And as we continue along in the desert, there are more and more of these bugs that just keep continually spawning. But the explosions also keep spawning along with them. So the mission's going just as planned. More of these slime dudes fall and instantly explode as I fire off this rocket, and I'm quickly, you know, learning that this becomes my favorite best friend, unlike my ally who I just obliterated. I have a feeling that me putting a rocket to his head was not the kind of best friend material he's looking for. At long last, we're able to finally get the launch access codes to get the ICBM up in the air. But unfortunately, the bugs aren't too keen on, you know, getting like nuke blasted, and as we approach the missile silo to update the codes, they are really fighting us tooth and nail. Or, I guess, tooth and claw. They don't have hands. As we continue to approach the site, more and more of these bug breaches keep popping up from the ground, which are the bug versions of ambushes. In fact, I don't actually know what that was, but I assume it was the remainder of the bug. You see, this giant little bug with all the armor doesn't really respond well to our bullets that just kind of ricochet off. And this little guy doesn't really respond well to me hitting him in melee. So, as I quickly try to reload all my firearms, I kind of hit the deck and dive for the dirt, which thankfully means no fall damage. But these bugs just keep on attacking me over and over again. So, I respond by diving over and over again. Thankfully, since the last mission, I've been able to upgrade some of my weapons into new ones. And by launching a little bit of an airstrike, I'm able to clear my back. And I'm pretty sure that bug just killed his own ally. Well, I'm able to clear out the hive as quickly as I can, and another, you know, like nuke blast goes off in the distance. That wasn't even us, so I don't even know what happened with that one. And finally, we approach one more quiet little outpost, all the way in the distance, before we arrive at the terminal that we're going to eventually need to launch the ICBM. But my ally launches me to a death, and a quick respawn. Again. You know, at this point I wonder if he's doing it deliberately. But it's alright, because we still have a bunch of respawns left. And once I'm able to drop land, I completely forget, like, where all my supplies are. And this dude kind of, like, sends me into the 4th dimension, so even if I wanted to find my resources and weapons from last time, I'm definitely not finding them. My allies, keep attacking all of the bug enemies while I, you know, run away and launch grenade after grenade at the bugs while they chase me. It makes me wonder, if all the bugs are chasing me, where the hell are my allies during this whole time? Thankfully, I'm able to throw the heat off me enough to get my anti-tank rifle again. And this time, I go ahead and launch a mortar sentry too that I brought along on the mission, which is just as cool as you think it is. While the mortar goes ahead and protects my position, I go ahead and launch the final coordinates for the ICBM and get ready to launch it. As you can see in the top right, the missile is fueling and approaching its final stages. And, with one final button, it sets off the 10-second countdown, and I didn't even notice my ally was saluting there on the left. It's actually really funny. I didn't know he was, like, saluting, you know, complete and utter destruction. Finally, with our mission objective complete, and the bugs no longer attacking us the way they used to, it's high time that we turn tail and get to the extraction point as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, the bugs don't share our enthusiasm of leaving this planet, and splatter us with all sorts of different chemicals, spit, phlegm, and everything in between. Ugh, that's just gross. And yet somehow I think I died from my ally again and not the bugs. I don't know how this keeps happening. I'm able to respawn and at this point figure it's not really worth trying to get my supplies again, considering the shuttle is finally here and we have no more missions on the planet. The ICBM is launched and heads off into the distance, crash landing directly into the bugs and giving us a victory worthy of Super Earth. God, I love this game. Look at that view. That's beautiful. God, I love this game. So we go ahead and board up, fire off a few more explosions, and time to return back to the ship. Fly, pelicans, fly. But then we finally come across our real mission, Stratagem Hero. God, why do I suck at this game so much? This first round was like really good, and I love this. But like, wow, I suck at this game so much. These like basic like button presses, and I can't even do that. Like, I'm in law school and I can't press simple buttons. This is like a shame that I even got this low of a score. How did I get a game over? You would not know I'm in law school. You would absolutely not, based on this footage.